Hello everyone, welcome to Everyday HDR. This is the advanced texture tutorial. If you've read the README file and the texture package, then you have obviously come to the right place. What I'm going to show you is how you can make your own textures like I have in my package. My package is all set up for soft light texture and high pass texture. Those are my two favorite ways of texturing. I'm going to show you how to do those real quick, and I'm also going to show you how you can take your own pictures of dumpsters with scratches on them and turn them into awesome textures yourself. So check it out real quick. Here is the dumpster with scratches on it, right? I'm going to go ahead and drag this and drop this over onto the photo I want to affect. So I'm going to select the move tool or V and move that over to the image I would like to affect. I'm going to press Control T and Control 0 to make sure that I get my texture affecting the entire image. Press OK. Now, the first trick and the easiest one is the soft light texture. Go to the blend mode for the layer of the texture that you have selected and press soft light. Easy enough, right? That's your first texture. What I love about this texture is that it's simple and it's easy and it gives me a good idea of what the texture is going to look like. But what I don't like about it is the color that it puts on the image. Sometimes I like the color, sometimes I don't like the color. If I don't like the color when I'm looking at it, I'll press Control I, which inverts all the color, and see if I like it better that way. And to me, this is too blue. So there's the other dilemma. How can I make this texture better? And I came up with this completely by accident when I made a high pass of a texture that I was going to combine together and put on top of an image. And when I dragged it, I accidentally dragged just the high pass onto the image I wanted to texture, and I was dumbfounded by how great it turned out to be. Because with the high pass texture, what you get is just the contrast of the image. So let's go ahead and try that one. So for sake of ease, I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this layer and then hide that layer. Change this back to normal so we can show you what a high pass does. So go to filter, go to other, and go to high pass. Now, a high pass sharpen I usually keep between 4 and 9 on my images. But a high pass texture, I really want to punch that texture up. So I'm going to go to about 43.9, maybe 42, low to mid 40s basically, and press OK. So this is going to give us a little bit of a different look, but one of the things I don't like about a high pass texture is sometimes the color haloing that appears. So we took that texture, and you can see what we did was just subdue the color to it, essentially. So what I'm going to do is take the high pass texture and put a gradient map on it. And when you select gradient map, it's going to essentially turn that into a black and white high pass texture. If yours did not turn into a black and white because you have two different colors selected in your color palette, you can just click here, change that to the default black and white, and press go. So now I'm going to combine those by clicking on the texture layer and the gradient map layer by pressing Control and press Control E and combine them. Now I'm going to change the blend option to soft light, and you see the difference. All we have is essentially the texture from the texture, if that makes any sense, because what the high pass does is it really just boosts the contrast in those textured areas. So that's the pretty easy way to turn any of your images that you've taken of random things like scratches on a dumpster into a texture. Now, if you don't want that texture to affect a certain area, this is another thing that's really pretty simple, is that you make a local adjustment by clicking on this layer right here, which is add a layer mask to the texture layer. Select black, and you're going to press B for brush, or select your brush tool, and just go ahead and brush out those areas that you don't want it to affect. Let's say I don't want it to affect this brick area that has been busted free of this wall. So I've outlined it, and if you press Alt on the mask, you can see all the other areas that you need to paint in. I could have just made a selection of it, but sometimes I get lazy and I don't feel like making a selection with the quick selection tool, even though the quick selection tool is quick. But And there you go. You can just paint certain areas out that you don't want that texture to affect. So don't feel like you're restricted to applying the texture to the entire image. Alright, so the other thing I wanted to show you was in the README file, I showed you a picture of the thinking man with a border and a texture on the border. And I did all this with the texture package. It's kind of advanced, but we'll go through it real quick and show you how to do it pretty easily. So I'm going to go ahead and close this out. And the first thing I'm going to do is go to my texture package and open up the rusted paint PSD file. I'm going to take that high pass texture and I'll move that high pass texture right over onto the layer I want to affect. I'm going to press Control T to resize it and Control 0 so I can grab all of these corners on here and apply the whole texture to the image and not just a section of the texture to the image. I'm going to fit that back on screen. Now the next thing I want to do is add a border to it. So I'm going to go to my textures package and go to my borders, and see, I was a little hasty and I clicked on just the thumbnail of it. You don't want to click on the thumbnails. The thumbnails are there just for you to see what it looks like while it's in your folder, because you see here it says PSD. Well, what does that PSD look like? That's why I made these thumbnails here. You don't need to double click those and bring those into anything. Double click the border 1 PSD file. Don't get too hasty like I did. And you're going to move that over onto the image. Now, same thing, Control T, Control 0 to resize and to get it all set up right into your image. Looks like I need to press Control 0 again to get a little bit wider. That's okay. I'm working on it pretty much like a thumbnail here of this thinking man to make things go a little faster. So now I want to apply a texture to the border. It looks pretty cool with the border, but let's apply a texture to the border. So we're going to go back into our texture package and go to the old paint texture. So with this old paint texture, I'm going to go ahead and move the soft light texture over onto the image. Press Control T, Control 0 to get that all set up. Again, Control 0 to make sure I get it all in there. Okay. Fit it back on screen. Now I want to turn this back to normal because I want the actual image, not just the texture. And you can do this too. Don't feel like you have to, this texture package that you bought, these are your images. If you want to turn this back to a normal blend mode and use that on whatever you'd like, go right ahead. So now I want this texture to fit right into that border. So what I'm going to do is press the Alt key and then have the soft light texture right in between those two textures. See how it goes from, or the two layers, sorry. It goes to that double circle. Go ahead and click that once it gets there. So what that's telling Photoshop is saying, hey, layer above me, put all that stuff into layer below. You're fitting it into that layer below, just into that affected area. So I liked what we had going on here, but the problem that I didn't like was the color. The texture's cool, but the color's not. So I'm going to also make a gradient map of this. And when I make this gradient map, I'm going to press Alt again to get it to fit texture, just like we did to make the texture fit into the border. Now we need to make the gradient map fit into the texture. And I like the gradient map look, but I wanted to get more of a look and feel of the image. So what I did was on the white side here, I double clicked it and it asked me to pull up a color and select a color. So I'm going to select one of the colors that's in the image already. I'm going to go with one of the blues that's in the image already. And my color picker is not working for some reason. That's pretty odd. Okay, let's just make it a blue color. For some reason my color picker is not working. Oh, there we go. Alright, so I kind of like what's going on here, but to me the border is a little too much. So I'm going to do is I'm going to flatten just these layers by pressing Control E. I selected all of them, press Control E, and then go to Hard Light. And there you go. So you have a subtle border with the color from the image within it. And if your color picker is working, it works a lot easier. For some reason, my color picker wasn't working. I'm going to get on that one and figure that out, though. So I hope this helped you out. I really hope that you enjoy the texture package. I'm glad that you've purchased it. I'm glad that you made it this far. And if you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at everydayhdr@gmail.com. I'm more than happy to help you with your texturing needs, any needs that you have. Other than I'm not a psychologist, so I can't really help you with anything like that. Well, I can talk to you, but I don't know if it'll help. So I hope you enjoy it, and I will keep these textures packages flowing. So keep buying them. All right? Take care, guys.